We've covered lens animation in the previous lessons, and in this one, we'll talk about lighting, materials, and rendering. We enter Cinema 4D. In this shot, I use the OC renderer. The OC renderer is a very powerful and practical renderer in C4D. If you often follow by Hans, let me type it out so we can take a look at this website. This is a very famous design website worldwide with a lot of CCD works on it. Almost all of the incredibly stunning works use the OC renderer. Let me type out the full name of the OC renderer. This is the OC renderer. This renderer costs roughly $4,000. Let's take a look first. This renderer, the effect is extraordinary.
Very good. The speed is quite fast.
We'll cover the knowledge of C-renderer in later courses. For this class, we'll use the default C4D renderer for rendering. Let's delete this material sphere. Let's delete all these materials. This is a scene we have now. We've also removed the lighting. This environment, I delete all these lights. We now have a very simple scene. After we've adjusted an animation, we proceed to lighting it. Once we've set up the lighting, we'll adjust the materials. Based on those, we'll tweak the lighting again. When rendering, the environment is very important. Just like in real life, when we're shooting a still fog in a studio. Even with the best camera, without good exposure and environment, you can't capture good results. Environmental factors have a huge impact due to the bouncing of photons. I'll hide and save its background for now.
In CCD, you see...
The most common type of lighting we use is area light, which is closer to real light. First, let's see the effect of a single light. We can adjust its height to make it slightly higher. As for the light, we will introduce its attenuation and detailed parameters in later courses. For projection, we must turn on here. There are 4 types of projection. Area projection definitely has the best effect, but it's also the slowest. When we are working, we must remember to save frequently. In the details, let's attenuate it. In the real world, lights fade over time. If too far, the light's attenuation is very strong and it can't illuminate because light is also a kind of energy and energy attenuates. Here we use the standard renderer to render the current frame, and the frame range is the current frame. Don't let it save. The size is generally acceptable.
Take a look at the rendering.
We can see that this is what it looks like by default, without global illumination on. We deleted this environment and remade one. Let's delete the entire environment. Create a new plane. Make the brightness plane a bit larger. In the simulation tag, we add a collider. Let's play it again. We can click on display here to reduce the number of segments in the shading, making it less detailed. To cut it, press the C key, which means cut. We select coding mode here by clicking here. Right-click to squeeze. We can drag it. See, here we have an edge angle. We can change it to 90 degrees here. For other heights, we can allow it to go a bit higher. We chose this option from the right-click menu.
Good morning, Winer.
We can set it here or drag it. By giving it a certain level of chamfer subdivision, it will have a certain curvature, making the transition smoother. Now, we have an L-shaped scene here. Of course, we can also extrude it here. Just drag it out directly. We provide a scene for it. So if we turn on global lighting, it has this kind of photon bounce. Let's create a new plane. The orientation is changed to Z direction this way. It's like it's in a room. We'll just look at the lamp and see what it looks like. When we turn on global illumination, if I don't turn on global illumination, when we render, only the areas lit by light will glow. The rest remains dark. Because here, light does not bounce off it. One thing that is very important is our plane. We must remember that in the collision, it has a shape that we turn into a static mesh, which is very important. We just missed it, or from this angle, let's render and take a look. We click on Render Settings. There will be an effect when we click. We find the global. After turning on global illumination, the light will bounce. The software, it calculates the bounce between photons. There are also many settings involved, which we'll explain later. There will be some bathrooms here as well. For now, we don't need to know how it works. Just pick a mode. A higher quality mode. Let's compare. After we activate the global illumination, its rendering speed will become slightly slower. We can see it first calculates like this. When we compare, we can see that it won't just be dead black anymore, because the light bounces back. The effect is much better. Let's continue to set the light farther away. Adjust the lighting a bit farther and select the light source. Make the range larger, farther, and the surface also farther. Let's take another look. Now there's just one light. I hope the front is changed to X. It has a plane, which is used to reflect photons. Without this surface, the light has nothing to reflect off of. Here, we'll create a new camera and protect it by adding a protection tag. Then we won't move this camera. It will be fixed here. Choose this plane. Our attitude towards him. Make it invisible but renderable. As for the details here, we'll explain them gradually. The farther the light is from the person, the more it looks like a point light. It's like the sun. Although it's very big, because it's far away from the Earth, it acts as a point light source. So, I'm making the light bigger here. Reduce the radius, make it bigger. Another point is that when we are making it, we try to give the light a certain color, whether it's a bit warmer or cooler. This way our scene will look like it has a certain atmosphere. Making a plane is also like moving a bit to this side. By clicking this icon, we can enter the camera view and render it visually. Clearly, it's very dark here. Let's copy this lighting. I copy this light and select it. When dragging with the Control key, it is a kind of copy to change its color. Move it a bit to the colder side here, and then rotate the light. Now, let's adjust the angle. Let's render it again. We only have two lights now. The effect is pretty good. We could also change the name of this lamp. The light on the left. This is the light on the right. When we hold down the Control key and drag it, we can copy it. We call it a backlight. Change the position of this light. Facing the light, spin it around. When we are exposing, it's crucial to note that a very important characteristic of light is its additive nature. If we turn off both lights, we can look at them separately. When exposing, we often turn off all lights and leave only one to see its effect. Now we can render it and see what it looks like when a light is cast on a person. But he will make the background divided. Not very nice. Let's make the light higher. Let's take a look at this light. We'll go into the camera view to see the rendering. This is an effective backlight. Let's adjust its intensity. In normal settings, I lower its intensity a bit. Then we activate the light on the right. Let's change the color of this light. Make it a bit more red. The characteristic of lights is that they overlap each other. Activate the left light and dim its intensity. This is the current effect we see with 3 lights. Let's increase the intensity of the light on my right side. The light on the left, make its intensity a bit lower. By double-clicking on the material panel, we can create a material sphere. Or we can create a new material by clicking here. Material defines the surface properties of this object. Is it a metal surface or a glass surface that defines its properties? We use this material detaching from the background. We give the background a color. We can choose color when we're picking colors. If you're unsure about how to match them well, we can look for some references. For example, we can refer to this diagram to match colors. We refer to the background color here. I think this color is okay. Let's turn off this reflection then. Just highlight. Let's render one to see. After rendering, we can clearly see that the light on our right is a bit too strong. So let's dial it down a notch. Then we select the client object. In the motion graphics, we find the effect processor, the color grading effect processor. Click on the parameter. Turning off its scaling won't affect its scale, but only its color. Let's click on shading. Click here, and we can find an image to influence its color. Here, I choose this texture. These textures can all be made in Photoshop. Let's render one to see. When we start learning, we shouldn't aim to master every parameter instantly. Instead, let's apply what we know and create works. We can also add another effect here. It's about environmental absorption. Let's try and see if it improves the visual layering of our scene by absorbing the environment. If the effect is good, we'll use it. Let's compare. After adding environmental absorption, its speed will be a bit slower. Here we can compare and see that after adding an environmental absorption, the shadow effect becomes more pronounced. I think it would be better not to add anything here. The effect will be improved.
Let's rotate another frame and take a look.
Render again. When we think the effect is not bad, we can render it into a sequence of needles. After rendering, we import it into AE for compositing. We render a slightly larger image. Let's take a look. The results are also quite acceptable for our teaching set. Our top priority explanation is the dynamics module. Also, the motion graphics module, because these two modules are very practical. Moreover, it's easy to achieve results. The most important thing for us is to first create some works to cultivate interest and establish confidence. That's my philosophy. Okay, that's all for this lesson. We'll continue to explain in the next one.